Hey guys, that mom here. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time with you today talking about one of the topics that is the most important to me, and that is infant sleep safety. I am at the age where all of my Facebook friends are having babies, which means that my feed is endlessly full of cute pictures of snuggable, huggable, lovable babies, and I absolutely love it. But almost daily, I see pictures that totally strike fear in my heart, and that is pictures of babies being put to sleep in unsafe sleep environments. Meaning the babies are being put to sleep on their bellies, with pillows, blankets, bumpers, overdressed, in their parents' bed, you name it, I see it, and it terrifies me. I know that these parents love their children, and I can only imagine how heartbreaking it would be if these practices ended up costing them the life of their child. I wondered, why would these parents be doing this? I know that they love their kids. I know that they want what's best for them. Why would they be doing something that could be potentially so dangerous? Well, I just recently read a study, and they surveyed 1,000 moms of babies ages 2 to 6 months. And what they found was that these moms are getting a lot of bad advice and recommendations, not only from friends and families, but even sometimes from their own pediatrician. They found that 26% of the moms surveyed received bad advice on sleep positions, and 29% got bad advice on where a baby should sleep. So this made me realize these parents probably don't even know that what they're doing can be unsafe and cost them the lives of their child, and that just made it all the more heartbreaking to me. There are a ton of resources out there. I was fortunate enough to go to a hospital that offered classes that I could take during pregnancy, but if you did not have that luxury, have no fear. There are a countless number of websites and resources out there to help educate you. I am going to outline the risk factors, some statistics, and things that you can do to reduce the risks. Most of my information is going to come from the American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm going to put all of the links on my page so you can double check everything, read into it further if you want. But I want to outline these things here for you so that you do not have to be one of the 26 or 29% who don't know what is safest for your child. So first, I'm just going to go ahead and define SIDS and talk about a few statistics for those of you who may be unfamiliar. SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome, is the sudden death of an infant younger than a year of age and that remains unexplained after a thorough investigation. SIDS is the leading cause of death among babies 1 month to 1 year old. And while there's been a national campaign to help decrease the risk factors of SIDS, and so the SIDS rate are decreasing, the rates of other sleep-related causes of infant death, like suffocation, strangulation in bed, are increasing. And the statistics show that 80 to 90% of sudden unexplained infant deaths are the result of unsafe sleep environments. So now you can see why seeing these pictures just terrifies me so much. When we first brought Q home, my biggest fear was SIDS, and our sleep practices was so important. I'm not going to lie, it's still one of my biggest fears. I check on her multiple times throughout the night, and I always try to make sure that I'm following all the recommendations. So while the exact cause of SIDS is not known, they do know some of the risk factors, and I'm going to outline those for you. So the risk factors of SIDS are babies sleeping on their stomach, babies who sleep on their back but occasionally are put to sleep on their stomachs. So for instance, when a babysitter's there or at daycare, are at an even higher risk. Sleeping on or under soft or loose bedding, sleeping on soft surfaces such as adult mattresses, couches, chairs, or under soft covers. A baby getting too hot during sleep, and this is a really common one, is a risk factor of SIDS. Being exposed to cigarette smoke in the womb and in the environment, and sleeping in an adult bed with parents, other children, or pets. This is particularly true if the adult smokes, has recently had alcohol, or is tired, which hello, who isn't? We're parents. If the baby is covered by a blanket or a quilt, if the baby sleeps with one or more bed sharer, and if the baby is younger than 11 to 14 weeks of age. So those are the risk factors. I'm going to talk about the recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics on how to reduce the risk of SIDS. Like I said, they don't know exactly what causes it, so they don't know 100% of the way to prevent it, but the studies have shown ways to help reduce the risk, and I'm going to get into all of that with you now. American Academy of Pediatrics has a lot of recommendations for reducing the risk of SIDS. I'm going to go over the most pertinent that relate directly to the risks that we just talked about. But like I said, I am putting the link on my page. I really advise that you read over it. It has a lot of information that I won't necessarily touch on. I'm just going to touch on the key things. So the first one being to put the baby to sleep on its back. They say that the baby should be put to sleep on its back for all sleeps and by all caregivers. That last part, by all caregivers, is really, really important, because what they have found is that babies who are accustomed to being put to sleep on their back, so even if you are super, super diligent about putting them to sleep on their back, but are occasionally put to sleep on their stomach, so let's say by a grandparent or a family member or a caregiver or at the daycare, those babies are at an even higher risk because they are not used to sleeping on their stomach. So it's really, really important that not only you, but anyone who's going to help take care of your child is aware of the risk associated with the baby sleeping on their stomach or on their side. As a matter of fact, really alarmingly, a study found that 20% of SID-related deaths took place in a child care setting. So that's really scary. So definitely make sure that anyone who helps you take care of your little one is fully aware. Okay, so stomach sleeping is generally not recommended for reflux. I know a lot of people hear that. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm simply reading to you what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations are. There are very, very few exceptions. As a matter of fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics only talks about two conditions which would potentially warrant sleeping your child on their stomach for their reflux. So I would, also inclined sleeping for reflux, they say is not recommended. Again, unless your child falls into one of these two exceptions. If you think your child might fall into one of those two exceptions, go ahead, click on the link on my page, read up on it, and then talk to your pediatrician. Like I said, in that study, pediatricians are also misinforming their clients on where children should sleep and how they should sleep. So if your pediatrician recommends that you sleep your child on their stomach because they're reflux, do your research and ask your questions. Don't be afraid to be that mom and be as informed as possible, because it could be your child's life that we're talking about. Like I said, it's the American Academy of Pediatrics recommending this, not me, so don't shoot the messenger. They did say, however, that once your child can roll over, you can leave them in the position that they assume. So when your child starts rolling over somewhere between 4 and 6 months, if they decide that they want to start sleeping on their side or sleeping on their stomach, you can leave them. This was terrifying for me when Q decided she wanted to start sleeping on her side and then on her stomach. I kept flipping her over, and then I read, I don't need to, it's safe, because once they have the ability to get themselves there, they have the ability to get themselves back. So always, 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 for naps and at night and by all caregivers, put your children to sleep on their backs. If you think your child is one of the exceptions, do your research, ask your pediatrician about the recommendations, and be informed. Use a firm sleep surface. So a crib, bassinet, or pack and play with a firm mattress and a fitted sheet is what is a recommended sleeping environment. It's very important that your product meet the safety standards of the Product Safety Commission and the ASTM International. So make sure that, especially if you are going to borrow or buy a used crib, make sure that your crib still meets those standards. Make sure that it has not been recalled. Make sure that it is not broken and has no missing pieces. Do not place any soft objects in the crib, bassinet, or pack and play. So these will be things like pillows, stuffed animals, blankets, sheets, quilts, or bumpers. All of these things pose a risk of either entrapment, suffocation, or strangulation, which is obviously a risk factor for SIDS. Trust me, I know how hard this can be. We have a really cute nursery set for Q, and so I would love it if she could be able to sleep with the bumpers on her crib and sleep with the quilt. Instead, I've hung the quilt up on the wall, so it's kind of become part of the decor. And I will just add the bumpers at a later date when she's older and it's no longer a risk. We're talking about it's just the first year of your child's life. After that, you can add those things because your child's no longer at risk. It's really hard when Q loves a stuffed animal or a blanket that she can't sleep with it, but it's just not worth taking the risk. So no stuffed animals, no pillows, no blankets, no sheets. Really, your child should only be in a swaddle if you are worried about them being cold. Another important note is sitting devices. So things like your swing or your car seat should not be used for routine sleep. I get it, kids always fall asleep in the car or on a walk or something, and that's fine, but do not use it for routine sleep. The sitting position can be dangerous. They can slip into a position that puts them at a risk for airway blockage. And so you do not want them routinely sleeping in a sit position. I'm going to come right out and say it because I see this so often. I realize that they are enormously popular, but a rock and play is not a suitable sleep environment for your child for two reasons. One, it is a soft surface. It is not a firm, flat surface. And two, that 30-degree incline that it's on is technically considered a sleep position. Stop sleeping your children in rock and plays. Get a bassinet, get a pack and play, but do not be sleeping them in the rock and plays. If you want them to hang out in that and rock and play, then go right ahead, but do not use that for a sleep environment. Room sharing without bed sharing is recommended, and research actually shows that this could reduce the risk of SIDS by up to 50%. So this change alone, room sharing without bed sharing, can reduce your risk significantly. We had Q sleeping in a bassinet right next to our bed for probably about the first 3 months. Then I started to move the bassinet a little further away. She was still pretty much in arm's reach and within our room, but it made it a little easier for me to get in and out of bed when the bassinet wasn't right up next to it. So this is recommended. They actually recommend room sharing until at least 6 months of age. So we waited until 6 months before we moved Q into her nursery. But it's important that they note room sharing and not bed sharing, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. They also recommend breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is shown to reduce the risk of SIDS. So obviously, I've said it before, I'm a proponent for breastfeeding. I know not everyone is, and that's fine, but I'm sharing with you the American Academy of Pediatrics does recommend this as reducing the risk of SIDS to your child. So go ahead and breastfeed. Offering a pacifier during sleep is also recommended for helping to reduce the risk of SIDS. If your child spits the pacifier out after they fall asleep, you do not need to reinsert it. And they also say don't force a pacifier, but offer a pacifier. It's important to note that if you are breastfeeding, though, you should wait 3 to 4 weeks before offering a pacifier until you have well established your latch. But don't worry, because you are probably nursing your child to sleep for those first 3 to 4 weeks anyways. So you are kind of serving the same purpose as a pacifier, so don't fret. And needless to say, because they've already said that stuffed animals are dangerous, don't offer your child one of those really cute pacifiers that has a stuffed animal attached to it for sleep. Make sure you get one that does not have a lanyard attached to it and no stuffed animal attached to it, just the pacifier alone. Avoid overheating is also another really important one. You know, seeing babies dressed in multiple layers with, you know, a short sleeve onesie and then a long sleeve onesie over that, and socks and mittens and hats, and then with swaddles on top of that, you know, overly bundling up your child is a very common misconception. Your child should be dressed in the same amount of clothing as an adult is comfortable in, plus 1 layer. So that means that sleeping a child in, let's say, a onesie with a swaddle many times should suffice. I see this a lot. As a matter of fact, one of my friends has just recently had a baby, and this baby is always wearing a full long sleeve onesie, pants, socks, mittens, a hat, and is bundled up in a swaddle. Let me just tell you, it is August. I know that they live in Florida, so it is hot. So based on that alone, I know that that baby is overdressed. But additionally, in pictures, the mom is wearing tiny little shorts and a tank top. So that goes to show that the baby's way overdressed too. If the mom is perfectly comfortable in a tank top and shorts, that baby should be in a short sleeve onesie with a loose swaddle on. what an adult is comfortable in plus 1 layer. That's going to be your rule of thumb. And while they can't nail down an exact degree that would be perfect to help prevent your baby from overheating, they do recommend that the room that the baby sleep in be somewhere between 65 and 72 degrees. So a lot colder than you would probably imagine, but overheating is a risk. So make sure that you keep the room cool, dress the baby cool. Just think, whatever you're wearing, plus 1 layer. You should also never cover the baby's head while they are sleeping, and you should check often to make sure that they are not overheating. So look for things like sweating, or if their chest is hot to touch. That's a really good indicator that they are starting to overheat. The obvious, avoid smoke exposure. So obviously, moms, do not smoke while you are pregnant. Do not smoke around your child, and do not let other people smoke around their child. Do not smoke in the home that the child is in, or bring them into an environment that is smoked in. So if you have a friend who you know smokes in their home, don't bring your baby in there. If there's a restaurant where you know allows smoking, there are still a few of those here in Texas, we don't bring our baby there. Do not smoke in the car. Even if your baby is not in the car with you, smoking in the car when your baby is not in the car and then bringing your baby into that environment is dangerous. So just avoid smoke exposure as best you can. The American Academy of Pediatrics also notes that cardiorespiratory monitors and products that claim to reduce SIDS actually have no effectiveness. I almost bought one of those because, you know, I'm that mom, so I wanted like every safety thing. And then when I ended up taking a class on the recommendations and the risks and everything, and they talked about how there's no research to support that those work, we ended up returning it. Additionally, just to note, they talked about this in my class that I took through my hospital. Not only is there no research to support its effectiveness, but it can give parents a false sense of security, which will make you less attentive. And they also have false reads often. So don't waste your money on those things. Just follow these simple guidelines. So the American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend bed sharing. I know that this is going to anger a lot of people. I know that co-sleeping, bed sharing is very, very popular. I have many, many friends who do it themselves. Again, please don't shoot the messenger. I am simply telling you what the recommendations are. They don't recommend it. I will say I don't have a ton of information on this. I am not a co-sleeper because I have chosen not to take the risk. I'm not going to say that it cannot be done safely, and I'm not going to say that I don't know people who do it safely. It's just something that I did not choose for me in my life. It is okay if you want to, but I do implore you to do your research. I did look up a little bit on Dr. Sears. Dr. Sears is a huge proponent for co-sleeping. He co-slept with his own child. He has lots of recommendations on how to do it safely, as to where the baby should sleep in the bed, the position that mom should sleep in to help reduce the risks, just how to create your bed to be as safe as possible. So please check out his website, see what he recommends, and if you choose to co-sleep, which I know a lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with that, do what works best for you and your family. I just implore you to at least do your research, do it as safely as you can, so that mommy and baby and everyone is happy and safe. So like I said at the beginning of this video, these are the recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. These are repeated on several websites all over. I just chose to pull from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Like I said, the link is on my page. These are the most common and the most talked about recommendations, but on the American Academy of Pediatrics page, they go really in depth about some things like maternal care and the type of care that she should get while she's pregnant to help reduce the risk after. I mean, they really go in depth. So go ahead and check out the link, read up on it. There's a lot more on there. These are just the most common. These are the things that are part of the national campaign to reduce the risk of SIDS. And like I said, you can kind of find it all over on websites, but there is more information out there. Click on the links, read them. The websites that I use and that are on the links have really great information. They even have diagrams and pictures showing what a safe sleep environment should look like. That would be really great for you to use when maybe you're educating grandparents or aunts and uncles and caregivers. Maybe having a diagram might be easiest. You could even print out one of those pictures and have it in the nursery so that it's an easy reference for anyone who's helping take care of. So check out the websites that I have on my page. Parts of being a mom is being able to choose how you get to raise your children. If you want to sleep your child in a rock and play, or you want to co-sleep, or you love having your child super bundled, that's fine. That is your prerogative. But make sure that you just know what the risks are, know how to minimize risks, do things as safely as you can, and ultimately just decide what is best for you and your family and what you can live with and what helps you go to sleep at night knowing that you did the very, very, very best you could, because we all love our children to pieces and want what's absolutely best for them. So I hope that this information was helpful, even if I, only got to one mom and I helped change something that could help change the life of one child. It was totally worth it. Hopefully this helped educate you. If you know of any other moms who need information, feel free to share these sites that are on my page with them. Be informed, be informed, be informed, and sleep safe. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to watch more, check out one of my other videos and subscribe to my page. I'm also really active on other social media outlets, so please follow me on Instagram and Twitter. You can click on the links to my page or search me using @officialthatmom. Thank you again so much for watching, and always remember, don't be afraid to be that mom. I'll see you next time. Bye.